Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Surviving the Abyss playthrough part 6. So, last time we covered off the update, which was around the fauna um, restoration unit that you can add on to the stabilizers, which we covered off in depth pretty much, or as much as I think I could have done. And got all that covered off, and now we've got into a place where actually we are pretty much really well sorted. So all of our units cover off everything, all of our units restore the fauna back to normal, and it's pretty stable now. So everything seems pretty stable in the sense of nothing's running out and it's not going pear-shaped and all sorts, because that was one of the main problems that we had, was that everything was going pear-shaped, everything was just getting completely out of control, everything was going minus, and we just couldn't quite get everything stabilized enough. So now that we've kind of got that in a good place, and actually everything's in kind of a good place, what I think we cover off next is oil, because thankfully enough, managed to find oil. So in the previous playthroughs I talked about this, because this was the thing we was desperately looking for, and managed to find oil right over here in the basalt columns. So managed to finally find one. So there's one over there as well. So managed to find one, and it's over here. So I actually also checked in the volcanic region as well to see if it was there, but actually there was absolutely nothing there whatsoever. If anything, it was next to nothing. So that was a complete dead end. But in the basalt column is where I found the oil. So we will go have a gander over there. So this is where the oil is. Now, to search for it, when you get a what to call it? I've lost my words now. What was it? When you get a sonar tower, you would search for fuel resources, and it would show up the same as a coal extraction point, and it will show up as a little flame, and it will actually say oil field. So exactly the same. So you can find it. It's not like it's just by sheer chance you can actually find it. You just need to be in the right place, which is the basalt columns. That's where you can find oil. So you need to research all the oil upgrades and things like that, which I've done. So over here you need to get your oil drill, oil well, oil refinery, and oil generator. So we're going to do all of that together. Okay, so you get your oil drill. Now, this isn't an exact science, because what I've noticed, you could plop one here, and apparently that'll have a really high gather rate, which is great. But you could plop one here. Oh, that also has a high gather rate, which is good. And then you could plop one here. Ah, okay. Ah, there we go. Right, so get rid of these. These are not important. So it's kind of like a trial and error scenario. So this one's really high, which is great, and this is the one we'll use. But then if you put it in the wrong place, it'll go low. So you'll get a really low amount of output from your oil drill, and you won't really get anything out of it. So you kind of got to just use them multiple times to find the highest gather rate you can get. So we're going to get rid of that, and then you basically, it's almost like a layered effect. So you start building on top of it. So you build your oil well on top of it, and so that's going to build. Right, so that's been built now. So that's doing its thing, but you're not actually gathering anything yet. So what you need to do next is then build the refinery, which is a unit that goes on top of it. Basically, you build it on top, so that's what I mean by the stacked effect. Very similar to the rate per day module that you can put on top of a research centre. You use that to basically build that, and then it goes on top and it does the job. And then we should start to see this start increasing. So once that's built, we can have a look at that as well, which is done. Great. Cool. So now we can see daily gather rate is 2. Consumption per day is 0 because we're not actually using any at the moment, so that's fine. So that's all done and dusted. So that's just going to keep doing its thing throughout the day. Max gather rate for zone. Current rate is 1. Lovely. Cool. Right, so we've done all of that. Now we are going to look at getting an oil generator. And we're going to see how powerful this is, because I haven't actually used one before. So it could be interesting to see how good it is, because like I said, I've never used it before. So I've not ever once used it. So I'm going to build an outpost here, just because I want to have it something that is literally just for that, because I can see it really screwing up my O2. At the moment it's doing pretty well. It's at 87% air quality, and the demand's not too bad, so because we've got this, it's doing its business. But I can definitely see us building the oil generator and it's just going to send the oxygen levels through the roof, and it's just going to completely mess it up. So I don't think it's worth doing that. So let's find, where is it? The oil generator. Right, so 3 people, 1 scientist, 1 engineer. Cool, so that's fine. So we're going to plop that, well, we were going to plop that there, but that's not going to work. We're going to plop it there, so that's fine. I'm going to build that. And while that's happening, I'm going to get a scientist. So, or maybe a couple of scientists. I'll talk a bit more about the fauna that I've got as well now, because that's also changed. Once this has been built, we can talk about that in a bit more depth. Right, so that's built now, so we just need the people to start, which hopefully will be soon. So we'll wait for that to happen. Right, cool. Right, so that's all done. So we have got all our people there. So we've got the 3 little people, 3 generalists, 1 scientist, 1 engineer, and now that is putting out 50 power for oil every 12 hours. So we are at a absolute flat in terms of oil usage, but the power output is ridiculous. So that is the same as, or if not more than, 2 of these. So that's what, 8 people versus 5. So there's 3 extra people you could use somewhere else. So if we were clever enough and go over and just see if this works, because I have a feeling it might work. If you sat there and you got another drill, you can drill from multiple points. So actually, as long as you're in the rough area, you can actually drill in multiple points, which means you could gain silly amounts of oil, and you could just basically run on oil power all the way over the other end and have no issues whatsoever, which I definitely think that's something I'm going to try out in a little bit once I've gathered up enough resources, because again, I'm running out of resources, which is not helpful at all. Absolutely unhelpful in this situation. The only other thing I've got as well is that this is not attached to my main power grid at the moment, which is a bit of a pain, but at the moment it's fine. It's not really too much of an issue. It works out pretty decent for what it is. you might notice that this isn't actually the build that I had last time, because what I've found is there's been a few bugs when they did the new update. So one of them is this. This thing is just never going. So this would be the part where you start to get the anomaly show up. This just doesn't disappear now, so it literally, you're almost stuck in limbo. So it doesn't actually expand the mission, which is a bit of a pain. But for the interest of this and for people knowing what to do and stuff like that, then you know it's fine. It's not the end of the world. Other things that have changed as well is we've got the nutrition paste plants rather than our carbohydrate farms. Got rid of those in replacement of those. So it's 3 people and a scientist for each. But the food generation is so much better. So low quality food is at 40 and high quality food is at 40. So we're generating 40 food from these two, and then another 40 food from 2 of these as well. So really absolutely nailing it with in terms of food. Biomass generators, do you know what, they used to be really good, but I think with the update they've really nerfed it, because now, I mean, it only does 14 generating output, but this does 24, and then the oil does 50. I mean, okay, the oil does create problems in terms of the oxygen because it makes the oxygen rubbish, but do you know what, if you do things like this and just stick it on an outpost on its own, there's no problem, really. It's fine, it doesn't cause any issues. And if you stuck one of these advanced oxygen generators there, it probably wouldn't be too bad. Or you can add the oxygen purifiers, which I think I had one somewhere, but I can't think where I put one. Yeah, I can't think where I put it now, but there was an oxygen purifier somewhere around here as well, because people were complaining that the oxygen was rubbish. Maybe not there, maybe in one of the other places. Not there. There. There we go. Yeah. So the oxygen purifier. So if you could add a couple of 2 or 3 of them over there, on top of the a couple of oil generators, you're laughing, pretty much. And the thing is, you could probably get rid of a lot of your power and literally just go with oil. If you look at it when we actually get to it, so we've got the one over there. At the moment, our total power supply 222, power demand is 165. So that's across. So that's just on power grid A, which is all of the power. But yeah, I mean, if you had like 3 of them, it's 150, and then you could literally just absolutely dominate electricity, no problems. You got these 2 here, which aren't causing any, which you can build on top of as well and refine more oil as well. So, and if there's another oil drill, so I put one. Oh, that one's rubbish. That one's rubbish. Free. So yeah, there's all these here, which is just ridiculous. So if I actually see, I've done it again. See, I should have really waited a bit and then done that then. But for the interest of this, you get the drift anyway. Yeah, so that's oil. So I definitely think oil is the way forward when it comes down to electricity. Definitely you should just replace everything you can with oil, because oil is just the way forward. I mean, that just smashes it. 50 output is pretty impressive. Cool. So that's oil. So I think in the next playthrough we'll definitely look at expanding that and seeing if we can get rid of some of these biomass generators and maybe do something different with it. Maybe use the fauna, maybe sit there and make more protein. I don't know. We'll see anyway. But we'll try and maybe streamline this little place into just like an oil refinery base. And just have it just like generating our electricity. So our electricity hub is here, and that is what's making all of our electrical needs come to life, if that makes sense. So we'll probably look at that in the next one. But what I'll do as well, just before we wrap up, is I'll just talk about the cloning that I've managed to achieve in this one versus the other one. So managed to get quite good fauna. So managed to find some rare ones, which are rare engineers and rare scientists, and actually this one, which is really good, which is scientists with no mutations whatsoever, and literally, alright, there's a low percentage in terms of like how much chance of a scientist, but not being funny, you'll get 8 chances to make a scientist, 8 chances, and it's very unlikely that's going to miss 8 times for infinite amounts of times, so infinite duration. So you'll never have a end of life span for these guys if you were to do this. And I found this in the volcanic area. So these are the more adapted species. So they're more of a specialist species. And there was another one there as well that was also for scientists, but it wasn't as good. It was like similar to this, but more mutation chance and stuff like that. And one I definitely recommend that you find and keep at the utmost is this one, the Atolla jellyfish. Just because 19% less mutation rate. So when you've got your engineers like this, which I can do 55%, then I bring that all the way down to this. I basically have 9% chance of producing a generalist and 75% chance of producing an engineer. And alright, they're negative ones, but then that creates what? 2 chances to create engineers 100% that aren't going to die on you. Because that was part of the problem I had as well, is that I had a lot of like people that were potentially going to die, and we just couldn't keep up with it. So we had to make sure that we sat there and actually could just maintain the people and not just keep having to replenish them every time, that we could actually get them back and keep them all the time. So we've got 125 people now, and none of them have got end of life, like absolutely none of them. Oh, actually maybe, okay, there's a scientist that does, which I didn't actually realise. Maybe, okay, let's have a look, because I think he might be the only one, so I did lie there. So yeah, I've got one scientist that's got 43 days of life, and then I think all my engineers are fine. All my engineers don't have end of life, so literally these guys are all permanent, and these are all my engineers. And my generalists, again, nothing at end of life, so these guys will just live forever. I don't have to worry about them. They're just going to be there permanently. So that's going to be all of that. Yeah, and then that's it pretty much for them. So yeah, so if I was going to do it, yeah, okay, I'd only get two chances to make an engineer, but at least I know it's permanent, versus I could have 6 chances to make a 90% engineer, but they'd only live for 25 days. so I'd be constantly having to keep redoing this over and over and over again just to replace the old ones. And it's, you know, and then I might just add a science in there for good measure, but then it's 25 days, 7 uses. You get 7 chances to make people that are only going to last for 25 days. It's just not worth it. It's just really not worth it. Versus 2 chances, two uses of an infinite person, 84% overall chance, 75% of it's an engineer. So it's just a no-brainer, really. It's worth getting like quality over quantity, definitely, in this situation. So yeah, so I think that will be it for this video. So join me again in the next part of this playthrough, and then we're going to look to massively expand oil generation. We're going to look to really like build on this, and we're going to make this a massive oil base, and we're just going to make this the oil generators, just the oil electric generator base. And maybe we'll lose some of these like biomass generators and things like that, and reuse them, recycle them for something else. Maybe we'll get some fauna out of it, or we make some more protein labs, or whatever molecular protein labs, I think they're called. Yeah, molecular protein labs, and we'll make more of them. And then what we might do as well is we might really start looking to have a look at this as well. Yeah, I think what we'll do in the next video after we've done the oil refineries is and the oil generators is we'll look to start going into these last remaining areas, and we'll basically explore all of these areas and get some little structures in place for each of these and see what else is there, because there is still a few things left to cover. So there is, oh there we go, there it is, the trench extractor. So we need to look into that as well in the next video and see if we can find somewhere that we can start extracting resources from there as well. So thanks again guys, and I'll see you next time.